Soulful Souls. Welcome to Soulful Sessions with Rory, the podcast where we dive deep inside the matters of the heart, mind, and spirit. And I'm your host, Rory, and I am thrilled to embark on this soulful journey with each and every one of you. Soulful Sessions with Rory is your safe space for introspection, inspiration, and maybe even a little revelation. So whether you're sipping your morning coffee, winding down after a long day, or just seeking a moment of connection, you're in the right place. Before we dive into today's Soulful Exploration, I want to remind you that Soulful Sessions with Rory is designed for entertainment purposes only. While we may touch on profound topics and meaningful discussions, it is important that you approach it with an open heart and a sense of curiosity. Life is a journey, and so is this podcast. We'll navigate the realms of self-discovery, spirituality, and personal growth, but remember, the insights we share here are not a substitute for professional advice or guidance. Always connect with the appropriate authorities when regarding your own unique circumstances. So whether you're a seasoned seeker or just dipping your toes into the waters of self-exploration, get ready for a blend of wisdom, laughter, and a touch of magic in each episode of Soulful Sessions with Rory. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you never miss a soulful moment. Follow me on social media, on IG at Soulful Explorer, at Facebook, Listening Veteran Life Coach, and Snapchat, Rory space Soulful with 2 L's Explorer. So that way you can share your thoughts and be a part of this incredible community. Now let the journey begin. Sit back, relax, and let's fill our souls together. This week's episode is Rising Above When Finances Seem to Hold You Back. Now let me tell you, this topic right here is going to be a several-part series simply because I think that we can't just talk about finances or money without addressing certain aspects of money. You know, number one, we have to talk about understanding the emotional impact that our financial struggles can have on us just from a day-to-day basis, week to week, month to month, however you're living. But then also we got to talk about how to change our mindset when we're used to a certain type of financial structure in our lives, you know. So change it to a positive mindset. That in itself is a topic that we'll have to discuss. And then we're going to go into practical steps to financial recovery. You know, everyone always talk about, you know, just pulling through, but nobody really gives you a step-to-step play or step-by-step play on how to financially recover when it seems like the bills are coming month to month, week to week, you name it, they're there. And nobody says, hey, well, here's some things that you can do, you know. And then we're going to talk about the mindset of rebuilding your confidence and your self-worth, because a lot of us tend to tie that into our finances. And, you know, we'll talk about that because whether you're a parent, whether you're a significant other, you know, sometimes who you are or your identity is tied into that. And last but not least, you know, hopefully we can tie this all in with some testimonies, some inspirational stories of overcoming financial hardships. You know, that's why I'm going to reach out to you, the listener, to actually give me your testimony, to give me your story so that we can talk about how we move to that next stage or how we came through certain issues and, you know, without assistance in a sense. So first thing we're going to talk about is poor finances and the impact that they can have on a person's mental health. So some of the ways that financial difficulties can impact your mental health is stress and anxiety. So I'm transparent. I don't mind using myself. Growing up financially challenged. Know what I said? Financially challenged, not poor, but financially challenged. It was always difficult for me to, well, first of all, let me say this. I got to give my mother kudos because even though for the longest of times we were financially challenged, a lot of times I really didn't know. I didn't know that we didn't have money. I didn't know that we didn't have, I didn't know that it was not normal. And how I found out was like most kids, kids can be cruel. They talk about the clothes you have on. They talk about, you know, the different things that you can't do. And I grew up at a time whereas, you know, I wore my brother's clothes. That was normal, you know, so I might have had on some pants that was too big, a shirt that was too big, and I'm tying it up and I'm doing all kind of things. And, you know, it might be that one kid to talk about you, you know, because you wearing hand-me-downs. And I didn't even know that was really a word till someone else said it. You know, hey, you got on hand-me-downs. You wearing your brother's shirt. You wearing your brother's pants. And I'm thinking, yeah, don't everybody? So The priority was not that. And then also when you look at your household, your parents' stress. You look at their stress levels, you can tell, wait, man, my mom is stressed, my dad is stressed. Whether you had a two-person household or just a single parent household, their anxiety, their stress became yours. Depending on the relationship you have with your parents, they may have told you, hey, look, right now times are tough. Or instead of telling you times were tough, they just simply said what you couldn't have. No, you can't have extra food. No, you can't have a toy from the store. No, you're not getting any new shoes. You're not getting this. And what we may not realize is that all of that, sometimes our parents tied that to our behavior. So now we're thinking that money is based on a reward system or gifts and gratifications. So we're literally saying to ourselves, well, you know what? I got to get good grades so I could get new shoes. I got to get good grades so I could get clothes for school. I got to get good grades so I can have money to pay for a snack at lunchtime. Now, you may not realize how significant these things are to you, but it can happen. And, I don't want to forget my brothers and sisters that grew up in the country, or some form of the country, whereas, they didn't have a house that had regular toilets. Some people don't believe that, but, I've known people who grew up with an outhouse. I know people where it was commonplace that their parents grew the food, or they farmed. And, that may not look like somebody is not doing well financially, but in some cases that was the case. That was the only way they could eat. I knew someone that told me about, they went out and got their dinner every night from the pond down the way. It was fish. They went and fished out their dinner literally every night, and so things like that, though at the time it could be, gratifying with your parents, but it's only when someone else shows you that, hey, you don't have this or you can't do this. So now, whether you realize it, you're tying it to something, but that stress and anxiety can come from you, constantly having to pay bills or manage your debt and just simply meeting the basic needs every day. Now, we're not going to talk about your spending habits just yet, but we are going to talk about necessity and want. Some things we feel we want and some things we feel we have to have. And believe it or not, both can be a burden, because if you can't get what you want, then it can make you feel inadequate, depending on, again, your background, your culture. And if you can't get what you need, again, it can make you feel inadequate. But also when you're responsible for someone else's well-being, whether it be your spouse, whether it be your children or your parents. So that stress and anxiety of knowing that you got bills or you got responsibility, you got debt, it can truly take a toll on you. And then what does that lead to? Financial struggles can lead to depression, feelings of hopelessness, feeling like, there's no tomorrow. Nobody can help me, feeling like, man, if I can't take care of the people I love, then I might as well just do nothing. Depression can set you down just because you feel like you're inadequate again. You can't pay bills, or people are going to talk about you or shun you, or you're not good enough. So that's the depression, piece of that. And then it just feels like you're a burden on other people, on other things, or even like you're just not worthy. So those are the things that can happen when you have financial difficulties, or when you're living in poverty, or when things are just hard for you. And so, and nobody wants to talk about that, but, that goes back to low self-esteem. Financial difficulties can lead you to believing you're not enough, can lead you into believing you're not worthy, and specifically with men more so than women, but it shows up with women in other ways. With men tend to identify with their finances and their jobs and their cars and different things that say, I'm a provider. So when a man can't work, or when he doesn't have the finances, it's easy for him to become depressed. It's easy for him to give up hope. I'm not saying that that's a good thing, but I'm saying it's best that you identify that, what, this man is struggling right now because he can't find a job or he can't work. He might have had an injury at work, and that injury is more psychological than physical, but it's still an injury. Or he might have had an incident. And this is not just for men, this is for everybody. Whether you had an injury, or let's say you worked at a place that got robbed, you were traumatized. And now all of a sudden you can't make a living. So you not being able to make a living is affecting you more than you thought, because it's not about being a provider. It's about safety. So you don't even want to go to work. Not only do you not want to go to work, you don't want to leave your house, because every moment is reminding you of what happened. And even if you had an accident at work, it can cause the same effect. Post-traumatic stress is real. Nobody talks about what leads to the stress. Post-traumatic means after the trauma. So after the trauma, you're having a level of stress that's unheard of, and that can lead to depression. So those are the things that you got to think about. Now, we talked about being responsible for other people, which brings me to kind of the next topic, a relationship strain. Money problems will lead to relationship problems if you aren't discussing them openly, if you aren't being transparent. Because let's be honest, most men want to just, some men want to take care of everything. Hey, I got this. Don't worry about it. I've been guilty of it. I will sit there and basically pay all the bills, do all these things. And when it came time, I would be upset and angry because I'm broke. And if I'm identifying my value with my money and I'm broke, then to me, I have no value. And unfortunately, that's what a lot of people do. Going back to women, I said earlier, men identify with their jobs. Well, a lot of times women will identify with their physical beauty. Now, I'm not saying that, the more money they have, the more beautiful they are. No, but I'm saying that when you start adding makeup, when you start adding spa days, and you start adding purses, dresses, shoes, pantsuit, fashion, you start identifying with how fashionable you can be, or taking care of other people, i.e. your children. Some women identify their wealth with the way they take care of their kids. That's their flex. And when all of a sudden they can't do that, they're willing to do whatever it takes to do it. But that's part of the financial stress, the financial anxiety. So, and men do the same thing when it comes to their wives and children. I bought my son this, or I bought my wife that, because that's how they identify their own worth and value. So we use money or things we can purchase with money to define our wealth and value. Especially if you grew up in a culture whereas you are identified by the clothes you wear. You're identified by the name brand fashion. Some people say, oh, I don't care about name brands, but you care about how people look at you. You care about whether or not they say, oh, they got a small house, or they got a small apartment. Oh, look at the raggedy car they're driving. You care. When someone talks about what you're doing or what you're not doing, and it bothers you in any fashion, then you care what people think. Anybody can say, oh, I don't care, but then you get angry because somebody says something. The thing is, these people are trying to tell you who you are, and you have to ignore that. Only you can decide who you are, not your finances. So what happens when we have strains in our relationships because of finances? We stop talking. We stop communicating effectively, and we start basically blaming that other person for our financial woes. Let's be honest, men probably more so than women. Well, maybe not, because I know a man will say, she's the reason I'm broke. She's the reason I don't have anything. She's the reason that I haven't been able to make it. Every time I get a step ahead, she's in my pocket. And then vice versa. You have some women that say he's the reason that we're not doing well. He has no motivation, no drive. I'm working my job. He's working this mediocre job. We're not making enough money. So it's the blame game for your own personal problems. Because truth be told, money doesn't make your life better. You do. Because there are many people who make a lot of money that are miserable. There are many people who don't make a lot of money and they're happy. And vice versa. Now, I'm not saying that money wouldn't help. I'm saying that money is not just the root of the problem, which is why you got to really dig deep and understand, how has money played a role in your life? What is your relationship with money? That's another thing that we don't look at. We don't look at our relationship with money. When you talk about finances, do you get excited? Do you get energetic and enthused? Or are you angry, bitter, sad? I've heard people say, because, been in the service, I've heard people say on payday, like, man, Money already is gone. Oh, wait, I'm lying. I didn't hear people say that. I said it. Yeah, because first and 15th, my money was gone. I spent it way before I had it. And I did that for years. Why? Because I was so afraid of losing money that two things happened. I wanted to look like I had money, and I spent it because I didn't want it to disappear. I never said it made sense. I never said it was logical. I just know that I understood my behavioral patterns. And then when you spend money because you're depressed, and money was your initial issue, I know that one doesn't make sense at all, but you're feeling sad, you're feeling blue. What do? You go buy more stuff. And then you get angry or upset or sad because you bought stuff that you really don't need or can afford in that moment. But you're too prideful to take it back to the store. You're too prideful because your friend said, oh man, those are some nice shoes. Oh man, that's a nice car. That's a nice motorcycle. And you're like, yeah. And you don't want to have to explain why you had to take it back. So social isolation is another thing that happens when we have financial problems. What does that mean? That means that you think you can't afford to take trips. You can't afford to go hang out with people. You can't afford to do so many things, or you're thinking about how they're going to look at you. You ever been out to eat with a group of friends and it's one person who don't ever have any money and they always asking, hey man, can you cover me? Or saying, oh, I ain't got no money. That's not the person I'm talking about. To hell with them. They need to go get some money. No, I'm just joking. No, but there's always someone who silently struggles when you're out. They're going, okay, I got $20. This $20 has to last me 2 weeks, a month, or whatever. And we're out at this bar, this club, or whatever it may be, and drinks are $15. I'm just gonna ask for a cup of water. When they ask, I'm gonna be the designated driver. Or we're out to eat and they just order a salad that costs $7. So you can kind of tell, and they'll make up a reason, oh, I'm practicing keto, or I ate earlier, so I'm good. One of the things I used to do is just simply say, no, I'm not hungry. I'm good. And I'll be starving, and I've had those moments in my life, whereas I was too broke to eat what I wanted. Me and ramen noodles, that was my friend. Yes, I still like ramen noodles. I'm sorry, I do. But, back then it was survival. My mom started buying them for us to make sure we had something to eat. And that didn't happen all the time, but the times that it did, it was enjoyable. And I still like the flavor of them. I just spruce them up a little bit. So we isolate ourselves. We withdraw from society due to the embarrassment that we're feeling, or even the fear of judgment that we're feeling. So nobody can say, oh man, you out here bad, and that goes back to self-efficacy, self-love, loving yourself enough where you don't care what other people think. Now, here's the one that I have really been guilty of: decision fatigue. Do you know what decision fatigue is? Imagine knowing that you have a lot of financial decisions to make. Usually we all do at the beginning of the month. Who gets paid? When they get paid, how much they get paid. Well, decision fatigue is where, you just can't comprehend. You don't want to really dig into who you owe, why you owe, or how you owe, and make the decisions you need to make to pay them. Like, for instance, you ever knew you had the money in the bank to pay a bill, but you didn't pay the bill? You didn't have anything to spend the money on. You just left it there. You wouldn't make the decision. You wouldn't pull the trigger. And all of a sudden the bill is late or it's overdue. And there are just certain things that you created because you were afraid. I don't want to use the word afraid, because you didn't want to make the decision, and that's a form of anxiety. But decision fatigue also leads to just being embarrassed, being embarrassed about not being able to do something, not being able to move forward. And you don't make a decision because you don't want nobody to know. Or you simply you're tired. So something else to think about. And then the last thing that we really don't think about is the physical health impact that it has on us. When you're in a poor financial situation, a lot of times you're not eating correctly. A lot of times you're eating your feelings. You're stressed, so you're not getting sleep. You're worried about things you can't change, so your brain is all over the place, and you're finding yourself in this position where you can't do what you need to do physically. You go to work exhausted, you come home exhausted, you want to get in the bed, you get the decision fatigue, so you're not paying bills, so the debt is getting bigger. You may borrow money and realize that after a while, nobody wants to loan to you because you've allowed your stress to mess up your focus on what you need. And so now you still can't pay people back. And then all of these things are just tumbling and tumbling. And you get into this position that is not a comfortable one. And it makes you feel a certain kind of way. Now, we've sat up here and we talked about the different aspects of what having poor finances can do for you. So we talked about stress and anxiety. We talked about depression, low self-esteem, relationship strain. We discussed social isolation, decision fatigue, as well as physical health impact on having a poor financial situation. All of these things are equally as important than the other one, because usually it's kind of like a domino effect. Once one thing happens, the other things are going to happen as well. And this is why it's important that you pay attention to your behavior when it's payday. You pay attention to your behavior after you've paid your bills. You need to look and see, am I in any of these stages financially? Because a lot of times you could have these things going on, but you're not even financially struggling. It could literally be the residual effect of when you were. If you just went through a divorce and your money has shifted, if you lost a partner and your money shifted, your kids went away to college, your money shifted. These are the things you got to look at, these life-changing events and how they affect your personal finance. And don't run from the problem, because a lot of times when we see something that we just probably can't do anything about, we just run. Or we go into this weird space where we can't pay it and we're not going to tell anybody we can't pay it. So you got to really be careful with that and pay attention. So you got to address your financial issues. And that's going to be in the next segment that we talk about, because you need to learn how to identify the root cause of your financial hardship. It may be a budgeting issue. It may be just a simple money issue. It could be a variety of things. But we will get to the root cause of your financial hardship. So what I would like for you to do, though, in the comments, if you've overcome financial stress, financial issues, period, which include financial stress, of course, I want you to put your story in the comments. And then maybe we can talk about it, and I'll use that at the end towards the testimony. But again, I want to thank you for listening to today's episode, and I will talk with you soon.